Hello everybody. Thank you for being here. We this is a great topic. I'm hope I'm not saying it Moshe.
Moshe, Moshe, yes,
Moshe, and are you from Canada?
yes.
So welcome. We've Product Camp Dallas has gone international. So once again, like if you have any for the attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. We also have a Q&A, and we should have enough time at the end to address all the questions. So I'll put myself on mute and then go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I don't really see anyone here. I just talk to myself. So I hope that you guys, if you have any questions, just put them in the question area or in the chat, and I'll try to answer any question that you might have. So my name is Moshe Mikanovsky, and the topic that I wanted to talk with you today about is product prioritization, and mainly because I think it's one of the hardest things to do in product, and I always challenge myself with that. And recently, I challenged myself to just put together these 10 tips, and I did it on LinkedIn. And when this opportunity to talk with all of you guys came by, I thought, why not just share what I just put together? So first of all, you probably have seen this throughout today. So thank you for all of our sponsors, Sequent, Pragmatic, and ProdPad. You should check them out. First thing about me, who am I? Just 4 quick facts about myself. So first of all, and unfortunately I can't see you, so I would ask you if you know which city this is, and you might know by my accent or by my name where I'm from, but this is Tel Aviv, so I'm originally from Israel, and these days I live in Toronto, so I'm here since 2002. So yes, Product Camp Dallas did go international by all means. And I actually started as an engineer. So I don't know if anyone here recognized this type of machine or even the company digital. But this was the first computer that I developed on in my first job. That was in 1990. So for about 20 years, I was on the engineering side of things. I developed a lot of products. And back then, we never had product managers. So we actually did the product management ourselves. We talked with clients, we talked with users. We did a lot of bad things, we did a lot of good things, but things changed since then a lot. And in the past 10 years, I've been doing product management. So I focus on that part of the product, building products, because I really love that interaction between the technology and the business and how we get there. So that's about me. So let's go directly into those tips that I put together for product prioritization. And the first one is really, really simple, but many companies that I've seen don't really do that. And that's why it's really the number one there. It should be obvious. But again, if I would have a poll in there asking you, do you actually have a vision, or you worked within companies that did or did not have a vision for product, probably not everyone would have it. So vision is really, really important for us to actually see where is it that we're trying to get. And there should be a company vision, and then there should be a product vision. There are some things about vision that are, again, quite obvious, like make it long term, make it think big, make it inspiring. I always find it relevant when it is derived from the company vision, and this way it's easy to align things to the company and to then later on the OKRs of the company, etc. But it also has to have the users in the focus and not the company in the focus. So the vision is not to make $1 billion. The vision is to make something useful for the users. And what I like, and you will see here in this presentation, is I like also finding good resources out there for product managers, and how do you actually do that. So the tips here are not so much about how to do it, but it's more about what things can help you when you do prioritization. So, for example, probably many of you have seen this product vision board by Roman Pichler. It's out there for a while. And I can share with all of you afterwards these slides, so they have all of those links in there. So Roman Pichler put together this product vision board, and it's quite simple, quite easy to fill up. And you should really do it in with a group of people, not just by yourself, because it really drives a lot of things in the organization. Another nice toolkit that I found is by Radhika Dutt from the Radical Product. So if you download that, one of the parts of that toolkit is also a vision worksheet. She has a lot of other things, really good things in that toolkit. So try it out, try things, different things. But again, I cannot say how important the vision is really. And just to go into an example, right now I'm actually working for a staffing company, but I wanted to actually go into some examples from a previous place where I work. It was a startup that we did AI system for legal research to do searching by natural language. You put a question about the law, and then you get back responses about which law case is relevant to that. So we had a very clear vision over there because the vision was, and it was really big, and it was really inspiring, and we want to democratize the legal research, or basically the legal knowledge in general. So everyone should have access to it, and everyone should be able to also find out, be able to have tools and the easy way to find information that they're looking for. So here, the vision really helped us to prioritize things, because other areas of the law, we could do many different things, but it was very focusing for us to know what we want to do next. The second tip is define the strategy. So once you have that vision, you really want to go and to identify how you're going to get there. So what's the way to get there? And strategy is basically, how do you get to that vision? How do you get to those goals? There could be multiple strategies, and they could compete with each other, and therefore you cannot really try everything. So again, you want to define the strategies that really worth looking at, and try to use those, and you're again prioritizing based on those strategies. So for example, from that legal research that I was mentioning, we had first of all, one of the strategies was the technology. So we were using AI, and that was the basic technology that we would get there. But we also looked at different type of markets and different type of users. So for example, an enterprise legal firm is not the same as a shop of one or two lawyers. They have very different needs. And the strategy would go, in the beginning, we started with the strategy to go with the larger law companies, and then we changed the strategy to go with the smaller ones. So this also created a better focus for us on what is it that we actually need to do and to develop to create the product that will support that strategy. So for resources, strategy is a bit, I've not seen a lot. There are some tools out there, but the more I've looked at it is like really some good product thought leaders that will really help you understand what strategy is all about and how to go by to do strategy. So I mentioned here a couple of them. You're probably all familiar with Marty Kagan and his book Inspired, and the Silicon Valley Product Group. But in general, he wrote a lot about strategy. And I also recently read a really nice set of articles from Gibson Biddle, who was the former CPO at Netflix, and he wrote really. It's on LinkedIn. He posted it all on LinkedIn, so the link is there. And I think it's 13 articles describing how Netflix came up with their different strategies, etc. So I found that really useful. Next is tip number 3 is to look at quantitative data. So I've been talking with a lot of product managers and product professionals, and some people are talking about analytics and data, and some people don't. And it's really important that we all do. We all look at different type of data because that will give us directions where we're trying to get. Quantitative data is data in bulk. You have a lot of data, and you want to get some insights from that data. So, for example, any system data, the data that your system is actually creating, and you can access different data from users. If they fill up surveys that have like um, ranges of answers, like when you ask someone happy are you with the product, that's an NPS. You get the number from 1 to 10. So all of these things are actually you can be collected and view it in a quantitative way, and therefore it can give you some directions towards things you're trying to get. And of course, this will impact your KPIs, or this will be part of your KPIs as well. The thing is how to get to that data, and sometimes this is the more complicated part of our job. We know that we need the data, but we don't always have access to that. So first of all, try to access the data if you can. I know that not all of us has technical background, so not all of us has that technical access to the database directly or to query things, but it is a very good thing to learn how to do that if you have that access. Or partner with your BI team. If there is a BI team or data science or other people that do have access to that data, it's really important to have a good partnership with them, because they will help you a lot with getting the right data and also analyzing data in different ways. I also love Pendo, so I mentioned it over here, but there are other tools that you can use for data analytics about how people are using your application. I found Pendo really user-friendly for us, the users, and very rich in functionality and great company to work with. But anyway you do that, you should really do that, because otherwise you won't have that data to look at, which will help you again to prioritize your items. And then the second one, of course, is qualitative data. So what do people say? There are sometimes discussions about when quantitative data and qualitative data can be actually used. If you are a startup and you don't have enough quantitative data, you will always only have qualitative one. But in general, you should try to have both of them as much as possible. So this will be comments from people like when you do user interviews and they tell you different things, when you do surveys with open questions, usability testing, any feedback from your customer support or success or sales. And that's also where it's really important for us to be close to the users and interact with them on a regular basis so we can actually hear those things. The challenging part here is, how do you collect it? How do you systemize that collection? And then how do you drive insights from that? And I don't really have any specific answer for that. I think these are all discussions for a whole topic for another discussion. But in general, you have to find ways to do that if you don't have them already. Because once you do, again, you will find ways that help you to prioritize different things that you have to do for the product. Number 5 is get stakeholders buy-in. Here, I find this really important, because when you don't have the stakeholder buy-in, or when you don't have good relationship with them, there could be there are quite a bit of conflict about what they're trying to achieve and what is it that you think that the product should achieve. And this is where priorities are really fighting each other, because just imagine the situations where you have managers, or head of an organization, or whoever it is that have some stake into the product, try to drive it into a completely different way. and there is no good relationship. So there is a lot of people management here, managing without authority, etc. But some ideas here is to socialize with them, and do that outside of the work meetings. And these days we're all working from home, so maybe it's a bit harder, but we have to try to find those opportunities. Make sure to keep them in the loop regularly. Show them the data. When they see the data, it's much easier to convince them of things and get their buy-in. And then also align the product decisions with the organization vision and strategy. So if everyone are aligned to the same vision and strategy, it's much easier to get their buy-in on that. Now, we all know that there are many different ways to prioritize. And this is where, again, I'm not going to talk about how you do the Econo model, or how do you do value versus risk, or the Moscow, or any of those models. But there are a lot of models out there to prioritize. And it's really important for you to learn the different ones. You don't have to try all of them, but once you understand different types of models, you can see which one of them is actually fitting your situation. And the resource for that I found that is really helpful is this periodic table of product prioritization techniques that Daniel Zacharias put on his website, Folding Burritos. And he really did a good job in there explaining each one of those. What does it take to actually execute them? And in some of them, it even goes into a much deeper levels, like the Kano model and a few others. So again, I will share these slides so you can go and view that. If I'm going too fast here with this and you cannot take notes or anything, which you don't really have to. Then experiment. So experimentation is really a core thing in what we should really do with lean development, lean product development, and agility. But I took it here in several levels. First of all, with all of those techniques that we've seen before in the previous slide, I would say experiment with different prioritization techniques. So you may find one working better than the other. You may find one easier or better suiting your cultural, your organizational culture. And that's where you should really try a few of them and then see which one works. But then, of course, experimenting with ideas. So all the different types of ideas that are coming in. And it's hard for us sometimes to prioritize between them, even with all the different tools that we have. And they might all really get the same value across. And we should really do experimentation to try them out early and cheaply, and then see which one is getting better responses, etc. A/B testing is a good way to do that, and etc. But I also found recently that book by Strategizer. It's called Testing Business Ideas, but it really goes also towards products and product ideas. And they give over there a very structural way to identify which ideas to test first. So prioritizing between ideas, and then different ways to test different type of ideas, etc. So it is a pretty good book to help you with that. I also mentioned here to experiment with product solutions, and this is where to me it's interwoven with those ideas. So once you have idea and you want to build up different type of solutions for that, you're not sure which one is better, you would go and experiment between them. The next one is about keeping a balanced product. So this one came from Daniel. No, I think that I messed up the name over here. This is actually Adam Nash. So my apologies for that. Daniel Zacharias was the guy with the periodic table. Adam Nash was a former VP of product and growth at Dropbox, and he came up with the basically balanced product or three buckets, where he's saying that you have metrics movers, you have customer requests, and you have delighters, and not one feature request or feature idea that you will get will cover all three of them usually. So usually metrics mover will be something to move like adoption or churn, reduce the churn, or etc. And it may not be a delighter, or it may not be something that client actually asked for. The same thing with the other two. So he believes that a product really should be always balanced, where you have a balance between the three. There are some times that you might want to focus on one more than the other, based again on the strategy of where we're going. So sometimes in the current strategy, in the roadmap, you really want to move some metrics in a more substantial way. But in general, you should always keep them balanced between the three. So I will fix the name and apologize for that. And then the tip number 9 is to think product-led. Now, product-led, it's not, I don't think it's a new term, but I've seen it more and more mentioned recently between different product people. And basically what that means is that the product is in the center of everything. So product sells itself, the buyer make buying decisions, the user sell it for you. So you build the product in a way that will really help you sell it without a lot of sales efforts around it. And there are many companies that are doing it very well. To do that, usually what they do, they will provide like a free full trial to the product, so you can try it on your own and you have a full understanding of how the product works, so you don't have to guess anything. There will be self-served functionality in it, so you can actually learn the system on your own and find problems on your own, etc. That will include, for example, onboarding processes. And then they also have a very focus on superb user experience and UI. So it's much easier for users to actually use it, and they also enjoy using it. There are many more items that goes into product-led and product-led growth, but this seems to be like quite a successful way for a lot of companies these days. And if you focus on that, that also would help you with some prioritization, because many of those things over here will require specific functionalities that might not if you have a full-blown sales team that will go and run all around the country to give demos, etc. So it's really focusing you in a different way. And one of the resources that put a lot of good documentation, blog posts, and information out there about what product-led is all about is product-led organization. Very easy website to remember. So check it out if you're not sure what product-led is about, and that could be a good way to also help shifting a bit with the product and with the prioritization. And last but not least, prioritize all the time. So here, prioritizing to me is like a muscle that I have to train all the time. And if I don't do it all the time, then things will kind of start falling apart. So, and like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I find it actually one of the hardest things to do. So that's why I'm really trying to do it all the time. So you do it on your daily activities. If you're like in the trenches doing backlog management and you have to prioritize the stories, you have to prioritize, help the team to prioritize on different gaps or whatever it is. You prioritize the features and requests that are coming in, the long-term roadmap. And then, of course, when things don't work, pivot, which is really what we all know that we should do, but sometimes we forget, and then it might be too late, or we spend too much time on things that really don't work. And if we prioritize in even the pivoting, it will help us focus again on different things. So these are the 10 tips that I put together for prioritization. I hope that they helped you. And number 11 is a question for you. What would be your tip for prioritization? So it will be great if you can write it in the comments, or if you have any questions on any of the other items that I mentioned. And let's see. Okay, I see. So Aniket is saying prioritize with empathy. So this is like your tip number 11, I would guess, right? Yeah, empathy is definitely an important part for all of us when we do product. It goes to everything that we do, that's for sure. And I can see how you really want to apply it also when you prioritize. And you know what, when looking at all of those models for prioritization, some of them could be really mathematical or very dry and cold, and that empathy is being taken out of the equation. So it is a very good point. Sarah said, my tip would be to know your audience and context for using the best technique. For sure, yeah, audience and context is definitely important. And that's probably why there are so many techniques out there, because it's could approach in different types of audience and different types of context. So as example, value versus risk and value versus cost. Some organization, the cost is really important for them, where other organization, it's a bit different. So you really need to see where it fits in. Thank you for that. Yeah, I see a few people commented that periodic table is awesome. When I found it, I was also very excited a few years ago. I think this is a real geeky way for us to love what we do as product people. And it could work also for other people. It's about prioritization, and I guess prioritization can happen in different places, not just necessarily in product. Natalie said, I like models that use scoring systems that take into account project size. That way, it forces you to break out projects into small phases that are prioritized and delivered iteratively. Yeah, so are you referring to things like first sizing like a t-shirt and sizing, and then it breaks down? Is that what you're referring to, Natalie? It's too bad that it's only one-way interaction here.
Yeah, and I think that's why. So I want to encourage everybody to sort of put in their questions, comments,
Yeah.
And I guess as we wait, I think one of the questions that I had, like, I first of all enjoyed your talk immensely, and it's always good
Thank
to
you.
have the tips, like not just give like saying, hey, what can I execute? But what would be useful, at least for me, is you talked about data, right? Like, what is a good cadence of getting that data, right? Like you talked about quantitative and qualitative. So
Yeah.
like, how often should we do, just if you can elaborate a little more.
Yeah, so I would say that if you have the abilities to get the quantitative data, and those usually are systematic ways that, like something like Pendo or another system like that, then I would spend some time of every day to look at that data. Mainly because you always find new things in it when you look at it. You look at it in different ways from different contexts, the things that you're working on at that time. And then as time goes by, you have different progression in the data, and you see you can find new things in there. Um, Qualitative data is a bit different, I would say, mainly because the time that it takes to actually collect the data, and how much access you have to people that will provide you with this, and then how do you systemize it to create themes from that data as well. So that also would depend on what access you have to tools to help you with that. If you work for a very large organization that have lots of users and lots of data coming in, then for sure you should try to do it also on a daily basis. But if you don't, then it really depends on what you're working at that time. So I would say, um, focus on the data on the what is in front of you. What are things? Well, actually, when I'm saying what is in front of you, I mean if you're working on a strategic roadmap for the next 6 months, then look at the data in that perspective. If you're working on a specific feature or in a specific product, then look at the data relevant to that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. And then Natalie answered for my question that yes, that's what she was referring to. And you're right. I mean, I'm doing it also quite a bit. It also depends on the stage of the project and how early we are on what we know and what we don't know. And it's much easier in the beginning to do those t-shirt sizing, where later on we can break it down to much smaller sizing. Sarah asked, what's your top 3 techniques that you use? And when you're saying techniques, are you asking about prioritization techniques, or are you asking about something else?
Yeah. Like you went over quite a few, and I was curious, like maybe off the top of your head, what are the ones that maybe you see over and over again on the ones that you utilize, or the ones that you feel like are the most useful to you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because although I would like to say that I'm always using the same thing, I've actually used in different organizations that I work different techniques. So I used the Kano model in one, and I used just value versus cost in another. Um, I know that some people are trying to always stick with one and then go with that everywhere they go. But I work a bit differently, where I'm trying to be dynamic enough with the organization and what works for that organization. So it's I can't really say that I have one that I like the best, but um, I definitely try to use today better models from this list than what I used to do like 10 years ago, when I would have a full list and ask everyone to prioritize it, and then everyone gave me a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then everything had to be priority 1. So um, one technique that is also could be fun doing is the buy a feature, where you basically give everyone theoretically you give them a virtual $100, and you say, yeah, how do you spend the money on those features? So they will start breaking the money. They will say, okay, I'm going to buy this feature for $20. I'm going to buy this feature for $5, and this feature for $50. So the more they spend on the feature, the more important it is for them. You can also apply that with a group of people. So you can say, of course, it's always a group of people, but you can say, if you from two different stakeholders from two different areas of the organization want really to come up with something that is valuable for both of you, you can share. You can put your pool of money into the same, so they can do some negotiation even before or during that exercise. But this is good more for I found it good more for like a workshop type of prioritization, where it's more kind of by it's kind of more democratic, and you have to use that.
I have one more.
Sure.
I guess there's something in the comments, so let's try to answer those first.
Sure. So Corey is saying, at any maturity level, I'll have to apply the Pareto principle and identify 20% of the action items that will deliver 80% of the value. For sure, 80-20 is quite important rule, I think, in everything in life. And I had to learn it myself because I was always trying to be very perfectionist about everything I did. And when I start many years ago, still in my engineering life, when I was managing groups of engineers, you could never do everything, and you had to apply this rule. So definitely 80-20 is a good rule to go by. Even with that, you will always have the edge cases, and you will always have the last percentage. So maybe it will be easier for you to do the 70 or 79%, but then where is that last 1% falls in? That's a challenge I usually find with the edge cases.
Yeah, exactly. So one, at least from my end, like you talked about, the metric movers, the delighters, the sort of the customer insights, and like as you sort of try to how do you sort of try to do features? Like, do you sort of systematically go and try to put, address each of those buckets, or do you do it on a sprint level? Like, how should people think about that?
Yeah, this one, I would say it's more of a roadmap thing, to me anyway. So I don't think it will be a sprint level specifically. I read once an article about, it always reminds me that, about actors and movie stars and how they pick up their movies. And they always pick up, what they said over there is that they try to go into the movies that will give them the Oscars, but they also will go into movies that will be blockbusters and will give them a lot of money. And usually those two are not the same. So it's almost like they're trying to keep their career balanced in a way that they will get money and they will also try to win some awards. So I would say here is the same thing. You want to try to keep your product balance in the long term. And then every sprint, you might have a theme for the sprint, or it might be a few sprints together, because it depends on where you are with the organization OKRs, where you are with your own OKRs, where you are with the product, etc. So you could have themes towards each one of those buckets. If you find features that will cover more than one bucket, that's great, of course.
Excellent. I don't know if there's any more questions. This like a last call. Otherwise, we will try and your your one final tip, and then we'll try to wrap up.
Sure. So my final tip is just do it. It's it's a matter of, if we don't do it, if it's all theoretical, then we can't really learn much. Even when I was thinking about those 10 tips, I didn't really know what they will be, and there were other items that came by. So I'm sure there is other things that can help us with that. Also, asking for help is definitely something that could help us as well, getting a bit more focused, because sometimes when we're too much in the trenches, it's hard to us to see the entire picture. And seeing the entire picture is also something that can really help us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, that is, I've put in my LinkedIn. Anybody else wants to network? We also have the networking session that's open, and we also have our closing ceremony, and there's a lot of raffle. So everybody listening, go to the networking session, check out the booths, the expo from our sponsors, and have and join us on the virtual happy hour. Get a drink and join us there, and you'll have a lot of fun.
That's
Thank you so much.
Thank you
again.
very much, everyone. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I will be very happy. I love connecting over there, even if though I'm from Toronto. And I'll be happy to send you the slides.
Thank you. And like, yeah, if you are on the Slack group, we can collect it, or if you just attach it there, people will have access to it.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.